Hi friends, this is your pal Scott Garibay, and today we are going to talk about Echohawk and his amazing article over on EN World, where he goes into the numbers for editions of Dungeons and Dragons, talking about how many and so here let me give you the specific edition we're going to talk about today, and we'll go right through the specific numbers. Today we are talking about 2E second edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. What are its attributes? Okay, so products, 550 products. Wow. Okay, 50, and I'm rounding these up to the nearest like tens or hundreds or thousands. Pages, 57,000 pages. 57,000 pages. All right. And if you bought every single one of these products, it would cost you $8,400. And second edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons ran from, when did it run? That's a good question. It ran from 1989 to 2000, right? So yeah. So those are some pretty incredible numbers. So we looked at original Dungeons and Dragons. We looked at basic Dungeons and Dragons. We looked at 1E Dungeon 1E first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. The numbers for basic Dungeons and Dragons and 1E Advanced Dungeons and Dragons are almost identical. Okay, the numbers for original Dungeons and Dragons are the smallest of any edition ever, right? But now, this battle station is fully operational, right? This Death Star is fully operational. Here, when we hit second edition Dungeons and Dragons, second edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, 550 distinct products. Okay, 57,000 pages of content, and that's new content. Okay, and then in addition to that, it would cost you $8,400 to buy those. And I will say right now, this is the last edition where I'm positive, or actually, I shouldn't say that. I have a strong inkling that if you bought them at their original cost price and just kept them well, you would have easily doubled or tripled your money. These are still collectibles. Advanced, they're still a pretty heavy, and I see these show up in my FLGSs every now and then, and they usually are double to triple their original price. If they're in good condition. And by the way, at my FLGSs, the only reason they get these on the shelves is if they are in good condition, right? Like people, they don't really sell anything that isn't tight, right? Like it's still in very good condition. All right. So this is now, the other thing is, you're like, well, wait a second. At this point, okay, so Gary Gygax had 3 editions, right? And those numbers, I don't know if those numbers didn't even match. If you put all 3 of those editions together, I don't think they struck the numbers that you're looking at here, right? So who's responsible for this? When did Dungeons and Dragons really put the hammer down, right? Like, when did it really begin to perform? Under Lorraine Williams. And actually, this is one of the things I think is really cool. I think Echohawk just showed you, without a doubt, by the numbers, second edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons surpassed literally everything Gary ever did, right? By the numbers, by the raw volume. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, I think, in my humble opinion, without a doubt, Lorraine Williams, CEO of TSR from 1986 to 1997, was infinitely better at business, and that than Gary Gygax, and that wasn't that hard, because Gary was terrible at the business of Dungeons and Dragons. He was excellent at the creative aspects but he was absolutely abominable at the business aspects. And he should have been nowhere near the business aspects. I'm not, I'm not saying, they should have had Don Bloom in there, but they shouldn't have the Bloom brothers in there, but somebody else should have been handling the business aspects. It was a very bad idea for him to be the creative lead and the commercial lead. And I think if you look at the raw numbers of second edition Dungeons and Dragons, this is all of this, all the success here, all the sheer volume. This is when D&D really starts to become a force of nature, right? And that's what it is today. It is truly a force of nature. It's really mostly peerless. It's extremely difficult to touch it, to catch up to it. It has successes that other games literally can't spell. They just don't, Dungeons and Dragons never gets beat because none of its competitors even know where the fight is actually occurring. Right? Everybody's like, why doesn't D&D get beat? Because they think, like, all these OSRs and indies are like, if we have a really good rule set, we'll win the game. We'll win the publishing competition. No. D&D figured out a long time. It's not about the rules. It's not about the rules. It's not about the lore. It's about D&D being a cultural phenomenon, right? The rules need to be good. The lore needs to be good. But you need to have your mind on making it explode off the page. And that's why OSR and indie TTRPGs fail. You get them, you read them like this is interesting. I understand everything you're doing here. Dungeons and Dragons tears through its boundaries. It is just, honestly, I think it's dangerous for companies to own D&D. I literally think it literally kind of like strains the walls of whatever it's in. It's absolutely incredible. It's really something. And so great numbers by Echohawk. And I think if you really look at these numbers, and if you really look at 2E second edition, what you really see is that Gary should have never had any decisions about the business of Dungeons & Dragons. And that Lorraine Williams was really the first time Dungeons & Dragons was under a sound business model. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing and have a fetch millennium.